Is the climate going through a phase where every storm or weather event is worse than before? Are there more hurricanes, and are they stronger than in recorded history? Are we more likely to be involved in fatal climate-related events? Well, that is what we are told is happening by the global warming extremists, but is it really true? Every time there is a bad cyclone or hurricane, it is spoken about as being the worst in recorded history. When there are bushfires, we're told that global warming is making them worse than they were before man-made emissions caused the planet to warm and therefore put man in danger. I have already covered the Australian bushfires in another video, so I won't go over that again. First, before I get into more specific events, why don't we have a look at the relationship between CO2 and temperature? Unfortunately, I only have a graph that ends in 1976. For the period after World War II, there was a steady increase in the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere, but as you can see, there was in fact a steady decline in temperature. We were being warned during this period that we were facing another ice age. That has not happened, but following the end of the graph, the temperature did begin a steady rise. The alarmists need to make up their minds, cooling or warming. This increase in CO2 and the so-called associated temperature rise was grabbed by the alarmists, as we saw with Al Gore's hockey stick in the less than factual film An Inconvenient Truth. This global temperature increase, however, stopped some 15 to 18 years ago, but that has not been highlighted by any of the alarmists. The amount of CO2 in the atmosphere has over the same period, however, steadily increased. So much for the much vaunted correlation of CO2 and temperature. Now some more specific examples. First, in the USA, there have been a number of heat waves, and we are told that the graph I am now showing proves that global warming and man-made emissions are responsible for the steady increase in these events. You will note that the graph shows a number of recorded heat waves since 1960 until the 2010s. Yes, there is a steady increase. Now let's look at the full graph from which this information was taken. Here you will see the graph is from 1900 to the 2010s, and overlaid is the part that was used by the alarmists. From this, it is clear that there were significantly more heat waves in the years prior to World War II, with the maximum being in the very early 1940s. Is it not the alarmists' contention that man's emissions since World War II are responsible for the current global warming scare? Well, what is clearly evident is that man's emissions cannot be responsible, as in fact the number of heat waves have reduced since the early part of last century. Heat waves are possibly going through a period of decline at present. Now let's have a look at tornadoes. Once again, we are told these are increasing because of global warming and the effect of CO2, and that tornadoes are getting worse. The graph I am now showing is proof that that is not in fact the case. As before, CO2 emissions have gone up, but the number of tornadoes has not matched this increase. Like most wild weather events, they are very vivid in your mind at the time of their occurrence, and the alarmists use this to scare you into believing their mantra. Man's emissions are to blame. Patently, they are not. My next graph will show tropical storms and hurricanes. Since 1970, when the current global warming scam really took hold, there has in fact been a steady decline in the number and severity of these storms. Remember that CO2 is reportedly to blame, and the amount in the atmosphere has increased during that same period. Once again, the news media uses these events to push the global warming mantra, but when you look at the real evidence, are we in fact seeing an increase or not? Remember, these weather events are caused in part by differences in temperature. With the warming of the planet, these temperature variations will in fact lessen. and so reduce the likelihood of catastrophic events. My final graph will show the number of deaths that are related to climate events. Once again, we are told we are more likely to have fatalities because of global warming. This is one of the mantras of the Extinction Rebellion. Well, have a look at the graph. We are not in any way more likely to die from catastrophic climate events than in the past. We can put most of this reduction down to modern construction methods and modern science protecting us from these events. Also, don't forget that we need coal and oil to produce the structures that are now saving us. Those horrible CO2 emitting fossil fuels are responsible for saving us. Today, there is over a 95% less chance of dying from a climate-related event than in the period between the two world wars. The graphs used in this video are from the book Inconvenient Facts by Gregory Whitestone. Well, that is the end of this video. If you would like to comment, both positive and negative, feel free, as it is good to have a two-way conversation. Please hit the like or even the dislike button. Please share this video with your friends and family, and if you wish to subscribe to find out when I upload a new video, use the appropriate buttons. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.